Have you ever longed for something so deeply that it felt like it hurt inside? Have you ever felt like everyone around you was receiving what you've been waiting for, while you remain in the silence of waiting? That was Rachel's pain, a beautiful love woman, but marked by a long wait and a silent struggle. Her story isn't just about romantic love. It's about envy, faith, loss, and above all, about a God who never forgets anyone. It all began near a well, in a distant land. Jacob had fled from his home, leaving behind his brother Esau, who hated him for stealing the blessing. Tired and covered in dust, he arrived at a field where shepherds were tending their flocks. When he asked where they were from, he heard the answer that would change his destiny. "We are from Haran." And before he could say more, someone pointed and said, "Look, here comes Rachel, Laban's daughter, with the sheep." It was at that moment that Jacob saw her for the first time, and what he saw left him speechless. The Bible says in Genesis 29, verse 17, that Rachel was lovely in form and beautiful, but there was something beyond her beauty. Rachel was strong, hardworking, determined, a woman who led the flock with courage and grace. Unlike most women of her time, moved by a mix of emotion and admiration, Jacob approached her, rolled a large stone from the well's mouth all by himself, something that usually required several men, and watered Rachel's sheep. Then, overcome with emotion, he wept. That encounter seemed written by God. But true love sometimes comes with trials. Jacob offered to work 7 years for Rachel. 7 long years. Yet the Bible says those years seemed like only a few days to him because of his love for her. Imagine that, working every day under the hot sun, only for love. Rachel was his dream, his promise, his reward. However, when the long-awaited wedding day finally arrived, fate took a bitter turn. Laban, Rachel's father, deceived Jacob. In the darkness of the night, he switched his daughters, giving the older one, Leah, instead of Rachel. When morning came and Jacob realized he had been tricked, his pain was immense. "What have you done to me?" he asked Laban. "Wasn't it for Rachel that I worked for you?" And Rachel? Imagine her pain. The day that should have been the happiest of her life turned into humiliation. The man who loved her was now married to her sister. Her silence in that moment says everything. A mix of shame, helplessness, and sorrow filled her heart. Even so, Jacob didn't give up. He worked another 7 years to finally have her as his wife. 14 years of waiting for love. But when she finally became his, the joy didn't come alone. Now she had to share Jacob with Leah. And what once was pure love turned into rivalry, comparison, and pain. Time passed, and the Bible says, when the Lord saw that Leah was not loved, he opened her womb, but Rachel was barren. While Leah bore one child after another, Rachel faced the frustration of not being able to conceive. How many times must she have cried alone at night, asking, "Lord, why me?" How many times have you felt the same, watching others receive what you've been praying for, while heaven remained silent? In a moment of despair, Rachel pleaded with Jacob, "Give me children or I'll die." It was a cry of a wounded woman who felt forgotten. But Jacob replied, "Am I in the place of God, who has withheld children from you?" So Rachel did what many people do when they grow tired of waiting. She tried to fix things on her own. She gave her servant Bilhah to Jacob, and 2 sons were born, Dan and Naphtali. She said, "I have struggled greatly with my sister, and I have won." But had she really won? Or just covered her pain? Time went on, and Leah also gave her servant to Jacob. More sons were born, and Rachel still could not conceive. The woman most loved now lived in the shadow of barrenness. What's harder, to be rejected by people or to feel forgotten by God? But God never forgets. In Genesis 30, verse 22, it says, "Then God remembered Rachel. He listened to her and opened her womb." What a powerful phrase. God remembered. He had not forgotten her. He was simply preparing the right time. Rachel conceived and gave birth to a son, whom she named Joseph, saying, "God has taken away my disgrace." In that moment, all the tears, the silent nights, and the heartbreak found meaning. Joseph would become the man who would change history, the one who would save entire nations from famine. But Rachel wanted more. She said, "May the Lord add to me another son." It was a desire of a woman who had learned to trust even after all her suffering. And God heard her once again. On the way to Ephrath, Rachel went into labor, a difficult and painful childbirth. Life and death met in that moment. The midwife tried to comfort her. "Don't be afraid, for you have another son." But Rachel knew she would not survive. And with her last breath, she named the boy Benoni, meaning son of my sorrow. Jacob, in honor of his beloved, renamed him Benjamin, son of my right hand. Rachel died there on the way to Bethlehem. Jacob set up a pillar over her tomb, a symbol of love and memory that would last for generations. And even though her voice grew silent, the echo of her pain carried through the centuries. The prophet Jeremiah wrote, "A voice is heard in Ramah, mourning and great weeping, Rachel weeping for her children and refusing to be comforted, because they are no more." Jeremiah 31 verse 15. Rachel became a symbol of mothers who weep for their children, of women who wait, of people who love and suffer but still believe. Rachel's life teaches us that God never forgets. Even when the waiting seems endless, He is working behind the scenes. Sometimes He delays the miracle not because He forgot you, but because He's shaping something greater. And maybe today, like Rachel, you too are fighting in silence, feeling forgotten. But listen closely. God remembers. He has heard the tears no one else has seen. Rachel passed away, but she left a legacy. From her womb came Joseph and Benjamin, men who would mark Israel's history. Her life shows us that true love endures pain, and that faith, even when wounded, can still give birth to miracles. So I ask you, what have you been waiting for so long? What has made you cry in silence? Remember this: God never forgets. The same God who remembered Rachel still remembers you.